Hi, my name's Irrelevant, and in a previous video I showed you the computer, the dream computer I would have liked to have had back in the 90s. Today, I'm gonna build up the computer that I actually had. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not much of a tech hoarder these days, though I used to be. I got rid of most of it, but I did hold on to a few key pieces. And much of those components were from one of my original OG enthusiast builds. I got a used Pentium 100 system one day, and that kind of started the whole PC bug. And then when I got my Pentium Pro system later, that's when I started going full balls enthusiast. At any rate, I still have some of those components, and here's one of them. That's the original motherboard, not the original processor though. However, this is an AT board, and by the looks of the power supply connections, it's a little worn out. I remember this board being a little bit sketchy last time I tried to use it, and that would have been a very, very long time ago. I'm not going to be using this board for this build, mostly because I don't have an AT case, nor a compatible power supply or an adapter for it. What I do have, however, is this. This is an Intel board, similar era, except it is ATX, so I can run this off modern power supplies and in a modern case. Now, funny thing is, I couldn't find any information on this board really. It's kind of lost in time. There's no part number on the board itself. There's not even a part number that shows up in BIOS or post. And whatever weird identifying numbers that are on the board, when I tried to search them, still nothing came up. I actually got linked to a different board. Back in these days, you had to manually set your processor speeds with the jumpers. So in order to get it working with my original processor, it took a bit of experimentation, but it's going. Talking about the processor, that is my original Pentium Pro 150, alive again after, who knows how many years. RAM for this thing, well, I have 128 megabytes right here to max it out. However, this is all about the computer I did have. So we have 16 megabytes right here, which did not work properly for all the demonstrations I planned on doing, so I might have to resort to using this 32 megabyte kit. Now, funny story about RAM at the time, these were known as SIMs. RAMs today are known as DIMMs. That's with two M's, not the little dudes from the video game. One of the special things about DIMMs when they came out is the ability to use one stick. Back in these days, you had to use two sticks. They had to be matched together, and you had to have at least two of them in order for the RAM to work at all. It was a big innovation when the DIMM, meaning dual, SIM, meaning single, pretty much took the functionality of two of these, put it on one stick, and then heck, you could run a system with only one stick. It's funny though, because now we come full circle back to a situation where you need matched sets of RAM to get dual channel and full functionality out of your system. It's funny how that works. Moving right along, for graphics. What's the full name of this thing again? Diamond Stealth 2 S220 PCI with 4 megabytes of video RAM. And talking about 3D acceleration, I was one of the first kids of the block to get one of these things. That's a Diamond Monster 3D 2 Voodoo 2 card. And as you can see, it's got this doohickey dongle here because this thing couldn't do all your display alone. You had to have a standard VGA card to do your general desktop and whatnot display, or even your cutscenes and stuff. And then it would pass through this card. This card would take over display when it had to display something 3D accelerated, and you'd actually plug your monitor into here. So you needed two cards to do high-end graphics back then. That ended with the Voodoo 3, which became one of the first standalone cards to do both. And of course, for sound, we enter the Sound Blaster AWE32, and this is an ISA card, not even a PCI card, old school. How about storage? Get a load of this puppy right here. What's that? That's an old school SCSI box. I think originally designed for a Macintosh, but it doesn't matter. SCSI is SCSI. You got these big, they called them centronic connectors. You had to assign the ID on the SCSI drive. You could have up to 8 devices per chain, and this would allow you to determine the device, and also the controller card itself counts as a device, so you could only really have 7. Now, if we open this popper up, I'm gonna show you what's going on in here. In there is the 1 gigabyte HP drive that I featured in the last video. Or I didn't feature it, it made a cameo appearance. You got a power supply, an exhaust fan that's not actually exhausting, it's intaking, and I don't remember why I chose to use this other than the novelty of it, but it's honestly better off in here. This drive runs really hot. Power supply, fortunately, still seems like it's in excellent condition. I've tested this, it is working. Now the funny thing about this is it's my C drive. This was my main boot drive. A boot drive in a box outside the computer. That seems counterintuitive today because, I don't know, some sort of USB interface you're going to use isn't going to be as fast as the internal NVMe interface, but back in the SCSI days, it didn't matter. The bandwidth internally, the bandwidth externally, it was going to be about the same, so you could run an external hard drive without any real losses. Also on the external, because this did show up in the old photos, that's a SideQuest Easy drive. Very weird drive. It's going to go on the end of the external chain because there's the termination. Termination was a strange concept with SCSI. You had to terminate the very last drive on the chain. It's basically some sort of resistor network that sets the impedance of the cable overall in order for data to flow properly. I don't know how else to explain it other than that, but you had to put one of these wonkin' bad boys on there in order for that to be a thing. Otherwise, some drives had jumpers on them or little resistor networks, like this guy. What you're looking at here is a 340 megabyte Maxter SCSI hard drive that I used as a dedicated swap file drive. Look at how lumpy and interesting the bottom of it looks. Like these chips have character. It's amazing this thing still works because I hope it still works. Oh boy, this might be the end of it. It has a date of 1989. That's old. Now you see these 3 banks right here. Those are where you plugged in these strange resistor networks to terminate the drive if it was going to be on the end of the chain. So I can't put this technically on the end of the chain. Newer drives would just have a jumper you'd set. Wow, as if I dropped that thing. Also showing up in the old photos, a Connor data tape drive. It ran these tapes. And you know, that pepperoni just pops in there like that. I found it fascinating, but yeah, that was in the photo. Actually, let me show you the photo real quick. I found this old photo of the computer. There's the Connor tape drive. One of my big drives is sitting here because it was physically too large to put in the computer. Of course, we got a floppy drive. Don't know if it was this one, but sure, we'll include that in the build. CD burner, not gonna bother, I'm not gonna be burning a disk. CD-ROM, we will be using this 52-speed Creative, but here's something interesting. That's a Panasonic PD drive. PD drive, you say? What is that? A very strange format of removable media. Not sure how much I practically use the thing, but hey, we'll throw that into the build since it's in the photo. Look at that guy. It's like a CD, but a lot more interesting. Now, of course, we can't forget this beast. Oh boy, it wouldn't be my original build without this guy, which I thought had failed on me, but it seemed it might have just not liked the controller I was using. Fortunately, I had a different one, and it might actually be my original. An Adaptec 2940, external, internal. Now there was one other hard drive in here. It would have been under this thing because if I recall correctly, I removed the 3¼ inch bays out of the front here so I could mount a big honkin' 120mm fan. Now that one other hard drive was a 5 gigabyte Western Digital. That thing's long gone. In its place is going to be this Quantum Fireball 10 gig. Now, back in those days, in order to have full cross-compatibility with all operating systems, you had to format to the FAT16 file system. And the FAT16 file system was limited to 2 gigabytes. So if you had a 4 gig drive or a 10 gig drive or a 5 gig drive, you had to partition it up in 2 gig chunks. So you ended up with a lot of drive letters and, you know, storage and applications just scattered everywhere. It might have been hard on the drive to seek between different partitions, so you had to be a little bit careful on how you managed things. Now, talking about fans and cooling, well, I had a big honking 120 in the front, and I had an 80 on the rear. I got them from Radio Shack at the time. They were loud like jet engines. Oh, wow. I don't know that I'm gonna bother with a honkin' 120 in here. This case will take 2 80 mils. So basically I'm gonna find the 2 loudest 80 mils I got and throw them in there just to add to the ambience. After sub-testing, that's these guys. A Nidec Beta V. Well, anyone in computers knows that's gonna be a ripper. And then this weird orange Sunbeam dealie is the second loudest one I could find that's not being used, and that will fit. Now, of course, power is an issue. In the other video, I was using an old 250. I'm not going to trust that old tire unit to run this much hardware. So we're gonna bring in something a little bit newer, but still fits the style. Antec True Power 2.0. Good old gray, same size, ketchup and mustard. I got this when I did a dual Opteron workstation build, and it's still good. There's only one problem with it. Can you hear that? No, you probably can't. It's entirely too quiet. But it'll fit the aesthetic. Here's another old photo of my messy setup, and as you can see, there is that external drive. There is the SideQuest Easy Drive. You can take it out of that enclosure it's in and install it internally. And this was some weird SCSI box I made out of a Zenith, an old Zenith computer. That thing's long gone, unfortunately, but it did have a good power supply in it. And that is a SCSI CD-ROM, which I believe was a 2-speed with a carrier. I don't even know why I bothered with that. And that is my old Acer monitor, which I believe was a 15. Good looking monitor, long gone. Now there is one last component that's worth mentioning, and that's this guy. You obviously need a case, right? This is not the same case, similar era. A buddy gave this to me actually one day. He didn't need it anymore. Funny thing, it says made in Canada on it. And I'm inclined to believe that. This thing, that means this thing is rare. They don't make them in Canada anymore, I'm sure. The further feature on this case is the top comes off. You've got your theoretical floppy bay, a hard drive bay up here, which is, that's a long reach. Oh, that side comes off. You know, you have room for cables in behind the motherboard tray, but not really any routing options. We didn't do things like that back then. And there, we have the gaping inside. Room for the biggest of ATX motherboards. Several drives right here with no direct cooling. Makes you wonder what they were thinking. 5 bays and, you know, 80 mil fan here and an 80 mil fan here on a kind of custom holder that, you know, had slots to support the cards back then. There were some long cards once upon a time. Not so much when this thing came around. So that's just an old idea. And one interesting feature that a lot of these cases had back then, like seriously, this was extremely common even in low-end cases, the removable motherboard tray. A higher-end case was guaranteed to have this feature, but even some of the lower-end cases had it too. I've seen this implemented a few different ways, but it's nice because you can, you know, pretty much get all your cards and hardware ready and just slop her in there. But either way, I think it's time to get building on this. So working on a system like this outside of the case is definitely a bit of a different experience. We gotta make sure all the standoffs are in the correct place. Yes, except we are missing one right here. And once upon a time, they had a different way of doing things. Used to be, you had these little plastic plugs. And some holes might be missing, and then you just pop that plug in there. Because you can see, that's not a normal threaded hole for a backplane. Also back in those days, motherboard screws always had these little kind of, you know, they're not quite paper, they're not quite cardboard, but these washers. They had these washers on everything. I'm not sure why they did that because they don't do it like that today, but it was a thing back then. We're gonna start this build with the 128 megs that I know is gonna work perfectly, and then we'll scale down for demonstration purposes from there. We're gonna have to fap a bunch of cards in here. I had this one in this position working. SCSI, here we have the Voodoo 2 going in, and finally our primary display adapter. Yeah, that's certainly trippy. Putting cards into place outside of the case. That's different, man. That's different. All right, Gordon, just schlep the specimen into the carrier. Oh, well, there goes my installing the cards before the case plan. They won't fit underneath this opening. All right, I gotta backpedal a bit. The sound card's just too damn huge. Everything else is going in smooth. Once it's in place, there's only 3 screws. I guess that's secure enough. Let's get the audio back in. How about some front panel connections here? You know, I had to extend the power switch lead because it was like, how is that even supposed to reach from the top? I remember that being an issue. I'm gonna tell you something. I forgot how important the reset switch was before I started having work with Windows 98 again. Oh, look at this special guy right here. That was your cooler at the time. And how about that PSU, yo? How's that go? Well, that's nice that the cables are towards the back, kind of like where you'd want them to be. Not a whole hell of a lot of options on where to tuck on them. It's gonna be a mess in here, man. Now, let's put one of our first fans in there. The Nidec Beta goes in this carrier, which goes in there like that. Now, back in those days, I didn't quite understand the concept of intake and exhaust. I would have been likely to make this another intake to blow cool air at the components, but I know better now, so I'm gonna go ahead and make it an exhaust and hope that what's in there gets enough airflow, even though that might be a tall order. Let's just start with the big end, which I've already determined can only go into the bottommost slot if I want everything to reach. Now, if I remember correctly, the floppy is going to have to go into the topmost position, and then our CD drives. I'm going to go ahead and put the covers on so I can get a better feel of where everything's going to be. The good old Maxter drive, which we hope is still good, is going to go in here. First, I got a custom jumper I would like to put into place. Now, the story with this guy is all these old hard drives, they have their own LED activity outputs. That's what I'm doing so that I can track the behavior of the different drives during this demonstration. Each is getting its own LED. It's gonna need a spot of tape though. Oh yeah, Monsieur Tape Drive. Aren't you just silly? Whoa, that did not feel good. Ooh, there's something there. We can't put a screw there. We put one there though. Hope I didn't break this too. All right, all our drives are in place. So now we move on to cabling. And that's where stuff gets real fun. Because this setup pretty much uses all ribbon cables. Yeah, I think I need to put the floppy one in first. Hold up, I did something wrong here. You see, you don't get to choose where you put your devices. You're at the mercy of the cable length. Especially when you have a situation where the case is so big, the cables, they gotta go all the way to there. So this guy's gotta go from there to the other floppy, which I put here. Actually, I need to go CD floppy, then drive. So I gotta rearrange this. That's great. Be right back. The funny thing is I test fitted this all already, but I seem to have forgotten that. Oh yeah, bud. Would you get a look at this impressive cable management? It is very impressive because it's the act of getting all these ribbon cables crammed in there and to fit. It's pretty crazy. And then, is it all gonna reach into the interfaces? That's the thing we gotta find out next. So, oh boy. Oh, the floppy just almost didn't make it. This IDE line has plenty on it. How about the SCSI line? It has to go right here, flipped around the other way. Okay, we're good. We're good. Yeah. I forgot to put this drive in. Not quite used to these old cases anymore. I can't get the screws for the other side of the hard drive in place with the motherboard tray in place. Oh, bother. Maybe we can snoot this back a bit. Oh, the audio card. Okay. Oh, power supply. Won't let it move. Oh, SCSI card. Okay. We didn't have to disconnect everything. All right, so now all the power cables. It's gonna be kind of fun. I usually do power cables before I do signal cables, but I kind of really had to see where the signal cables were gonna sit first. Some of these, you gotta untangle them first, of course. We're not gonna need PCI Express or SATA. That leaves us 2 Molexes. Great. Well, I got one that can go directly up here. There's like one more with 3 connectors. And guess what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more devices. Which of course is the reason why no enthusiast build at the time was not complete with a whole bunch of Y splitters, which hopefully didn't glitch out on you. Now the big drive is definitely going to get its own Molex. I guess we'll Y out the CD drives. Oh, we also need a fan adapter. That's great. All right, are you ready for the feature presentation from the hilarious House of Frankenstein? Let's see. Up top, we have our swap drive and our Connor tape drive, and they got their own run. A little bit just convenience. Oh, here we have guts hanging out. The second Molex comes down to fire this hard drive, and then the other end of it connects to this hard drive over there. And then we have one Y splitter splitting off that way, and then to the CD drives. And on the other side, the Y splitter has a fan adapter to run that fan, and then into the floppy drive. Now, for all intents and purposes, this build is pretty much complete. Everything's connected, everything's powered. I suppose if you wanted to put like a lot of time in and have custom cables, because that's kind of what it came down to once upon a time, you had to get elongated cables, and you could actually remove the connectors off the cable and physically locate them somewhere else. They just kind of pinch and spike into the cable. So yeah, if you were really doing hardcore cable management back then, you would be custom modding your cables by moving the connectors around. But yeah, this sexy beast is what an enthusiast system would have looked like back then. I think we can kind of just do one of these like there. Oh, an interesting little upgrade that you would do as an enthusiast back then. Thumb screws. They didn't come with them. They were aftermarket. You had to add them yourself. And unfortunately, there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot of ventilation for Buddy at the top, which is probably one of the reasons why I never liked using that position, as nice as it is. And there we go. Complete. And let's... Oh yeah, it's about as heavy as an enthusiast system should be. I guess we go fire on it now. All right, so I've gone ahead and tested on this real quick just to make sure it's functioning consistently with the way it should be. Now, it's all set up. It's ready to go. The question is, are you ready now for some ASMR? We'll start off by turning on this drive. Now that that's going, let's turn the system on and bask in its obnoxiousness. Do you hear that? That, my friends, is what an enthusiast system from the 90s sounded like. And it was fully loaded. So this thing's pretty loud and I'm not quite sure how to feel about it. To add insult to injury, the Nidec fan at the front is not moving a whole heck of a lot of air considering how much noise it's making. I might, for the sake of my own sanity, take this half apart, kinda, well, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it open so that it can breathe, and I do believe the sound levels will be a little bit more manageable. So here we're gonna experience the raw performance power of this system. I've got some image files in here. One of them is a typical 6 megabyte JPEG that I shot using this Z50 when I first got it. Let's see how long it takes to load. Now this is with 128 megs of RAM. We haven't even neutered the system yet. We have a counter going up. It's at 50% already. That just goes to show you what we're dealing with here. 17 seconds, 17:58, so 18 seconds. Now if we kind of bump around, you can see the lag time. Now this does have Task Manager, which will give us some telemetry. And just running the system and opening that file, we're using 94 megabytes of RAM. Now let's try a step up. If you remember the last video, I made an anecdote about trying to open a 30 megabyte file. Well, let's try that 30 megabyte file. It's doing about 2% per 1 second. Processor's kind of dimed out to over 90%. Surprisingly, our RAM hasn't increased yet. That took 43 seconds. That's a photo I took in Toronto from the CN Tower on medium format film. We can move around pretty good so far. Now, one might ask, why do I need a dedicated swap drive? Because if I go to System C, free space is only 391 megabytes of the 1 gig it originally is. If I make a swap file, the system's gonna make minimum like 130, 150 meg swap file. My drive space would go down pretty much to nothing if I was using the main drive as a swap file. So that's part and parcel of what made this an enthusiast system. The whole fact that I could have a whole spare drive just for a swap file. Ironically, because it's a SCSI drive from 1989, it's probably one of the slowest drives in the system, which somewhat defeats the purpose, but I didn't know any better back then. So now I'm gonna reset the computer, or I'm gonna shut it down, and I'm gonna swap out to the 32 megabytes of RAM, and we're gonna compare the differences. As an aside, I took the cover off of this drive so we could kill the airflow and give it a good opportunity to heat up. Right now we're at about 41 degrees Celsius already. Now I've started the timer. Let's see the difference in boot up time with only 32 megs of RAM. Here we have a swap camera. There are 3 lights here. That is the onboard IDE controller, which is not being used right now. That is the big 4 gigabyte drive, and that is the dedicated swap drive. So let's pay attention to how crazy that third light goes as it starts to load up this copy of Windows. Memory size decreased. Yes, we know that. If I haven't clearly explained what a swap file is, it's a virtual memory, virtual RAM. If you don't have enough RAM for the computer to function, it has to cache whatever it would normally put on RAM onto the hard drive. It's known as the swap file, page file, and/or virtual memory. Quite impressively, it didn't take much longer to boot up. 3 minutes and 3 seconds as opposed to 2 minutes and 49 seconds. But everything I click now, I can hear that swap file going. And it's definitely taking a longer time for stuff to load and pop up. All right, so idle. We're using 31 megs of RAM. According to this telemetry, half of it is the actual RAM and the other half is in swap. So now let's try to load that 6 megabyte JPEG and see what happens. As you can see, the swap file's given her. It jumped to 93 megabytes of RAM usage. We're almost a minute in, and it hasn't even started loading the photo yet. Oh, there it goes, 2% at 1 minute. And look at that pupper going. Remember, this is the drive the photo is located on, and that's the page file given her. 20% at 1 minute 25 seconds. 2 minutes in, and we're at 45%. 75% at 3 minutes. And this with 32 megs, not even 16. Though I imagine 16 probably wouldn't be much slower than this because it's still depending a lot on the hard drive. Look at them drives grinding. The C drive's going pretty hard too. And it's up to about 44 degrees now. Oh yeah, Oh, look at it go. Rendering. Talking about torture testing a system. Fortunately, this Maxter drive doesn't run very hot. And time, 5 minutes and 56 seconds. 6 minutes to load a 6 megabyte JPEG. And check it out, as soon as we do anything, more grinding, more rendering. This, my friends, is what it was like to compute in the 90s. Fortunately, photos were rather small at the time and could render pretty quickly. But yeah, your first foray into photo editing, not so good. Now, one of the crappy things about Windows NT is it didn't support anything higher than DirectX 3, which made for some rather old games. Even back in this era, games would have been in DirectX 5 or DirectX 6. It did have full support for OpenGL. About one of the only games that would run OpenGL is Half-Life, which I have installed onto the big drive. Funny story, I found some old save games on one of these old data cartridges. Let's see if I can load one up. How much swap is getting used here? Oh yeah, the swap's going. This would have been loaded by now with 128 megs of RAM. Oh. Okay. Oh boy. Ah, this is OpenG. Oh. Okay, this is running like crap. Man, I don't remember running this poorly, even with 16 megs of RAM. Oh, this poor dude. Oh yeah, listen to the drive go. Okay. Clearly, this is not a fun time. It's entirely possible that I have some settings turned up here that shouldn't be turned up, so... OpenGL 8x6. This computer's just not having a fun time. Hard drives are just grinding. Welcome to the world of computing in the 90s, even though I swear this game ran better than that. Oh. Half-Life was unable to I don't want to go to a web page. What? Netscape is trying to run in the background? Remember when we tried to run that before and it didn't want to work? I haven't seen that logo in forever. That's mental. This is a fluke and a half. Okay, well, there's no network card on this, so... Oh, wow, look at how this looks. This is so nostalgic. The traffic light and the reload. What did I have for bookmarks? Nothing, because I didn't do anything on this computer. Oh well, goodbye Netscape. It was nice seeing you again. I think we've had quite a bit enough of NT. Let's try going into 90s 8 and see what happens. Oh boy, my big drive's just cooking here now, man. 57 degrees Celsius. We're not gonna need it for our Windows 98 test, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and unplug on it, give the SCSI hardware a break, and also give my ears a break. Oh, it's burning my hand. Wow. You too, Maxter. Now, in order to boot into 90s 8, we have to re-enable the stock IDE controller. And of course, we shall time it from here, the video splash screen. Well, what do you know? I think we got into Windows 98 in only 1 minute and 30 seconds, even with 32 megs of RAM. Why is this so huge? Now, those files that I told you about, I have them installed on the SciQuest Easy drive right now. Let's try the 6 meg file, 32 megabytes in Windows 98. The SciQuest drive probably isn't the fastest drive in the world, but it's faster than the computer's ability to load this file. And of course, you can hear the virtual memory in Windows 98 going off. Ooh, looks like it's rendering a little bit faster now that it's open. 1 minute and 4 seconds. Now that 10 gig IDE drive is probably a lot faster than those SCSI drives, so that could be part of it. Windows 98 might actually be a bit lighter weight too. Our processor telemetry does show some peaking out. Now let's try the 30 megabyte file. It's doing pretty good actually. 56 seconds. That's different than the other one. Maybe it takes longer to process the colors. Yeah, it zooms in and out pretty fast too, actually. You know, 98 is newer than NT4. It could be better optimized. Now let's see what it's like to run some games on this thing, because that's, you know, really what we're here for, that good old Voodoo 2. I've actually got a few picked out here. Monster Truck Madness 2, that's a Voodoo 2 title. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's give her. Loading pretty fast considering how old it is.
Are you ready for
oh boy. And so this is 3D effects Voodoo 2 accelerated. Oh yeah. And so far I think I'm winning. Oh, I missed the checkpoint. Yeah, I'm gonna lose now. Oh boy. That was an epic fail. Why are these other trucks going so slow? Making it easy to catch up to them. Oh yeah. Oh, poof. I've never actually seen monster trucks race before. Usually they're just smashing crap up in a friggin' arena. Do they actually race them? I can't imagine they handle very well. Oh, screwed up again. But no one's caught up to me. I must have it set to easy. I swear those checkpoint poles are magnetic. I might be driving straight, but I just get sucked right into them. I also feel that it's a little bit choppy. Oh, there's a train? Okay. Oh, where's my brake? You're not supposed to use brakes, you're racing. Imagine only going 50 miles an hour while you're revved out to 8,000 RPM. Ain't got no overdrive, bud.
Nightmare has won the race.
Okay, well, I've won at the game. I'm not sure how. Oh, look at that. My processor was binned. What's next? Incoming. I barely remember this game. Another thing, I'm rediscovering some old games from the past. I sure had a lot of games, but these are just a few from that era. Ooh. Okay. Mission 1. Takes place in June 2009. When did you make this game? Frick. We're over 10 years past the setting of this game. That's funny, and you know it's supposed to be futuristic. Oh, okay. How do we, oh, hey. Oh, controls are very, they're very overdriving. I keep oversteering. Oh, this is a cute little friggin', little arcade game here, bud. Oh, UFOs now. If only I could aim at them. They're going slower and they're harder to aim at. Oh, geez, there's crap everywhere now. Wait, were those friendlies? Oh, geez, there's friendlies out there. I've been shooting down friendlies. Is there a mouse control for this? Oh, there is mouse. Okay, let's try that. Oh boy, what? It's even worse now. The slightest little blip of the mouse, I'm just flying everywhere. Ugh. I can't do anything anymore. Who the heck designed these mouse controls? It's like moving the mouse starts to steer. You can't just position it like a typical 3D shooter. Okay, this is not working. Sensitivity is set to 0 already. Huh. Because I'm remembering this game now, and I remember like liking it, but not being able to play it, and I guess this is why? Because I couldn't control it worth a damn? Do I have an ammo limit? Or can I just keep going? Oh, it's slowing down a bit with all the artifacts. Oh, is that what I look like? Oh, geez, they're giving me a helicopter now? This can't end well. No, don't. Oh, no, don't blow up your own base, bud. Okay, I found up. It's Q. I don't know what I'm. Oh, there I go, blowing up my own base again. Destroy incoming enemies. Okay. The helicopter's a little bit easier to control than the. Oh. And how come I'm shooting at these guys and nothing's happening? Oh, they're stuck together. There's a little bit of auto aim. retrieve drone. Did they have drones in 2009? I don't know. You know, this is a fun little arcade type game. I might actually enjoy giving this a play if I could control the damn thing. On that note, I'm gonna go to this game. This is a game I remember. This is a game I thoroughly enjoyed. I think I played this start to back for a couple times. And in fact, I have half of mine to, the heck was that noise? Sounds like my CD-ROM's hiccuping or barking. I'm gonna try the other drive, the PD drive. This is a tank game, or kind of a tank game, based on an old classic. I'm pretty sure there was an Atari game that was Battle Zone. I'm just gonna go ahead and run the tutorial here. That'll give you the gist of it. We're on Earth's moon. Oh yeah, this is kind of like a Cold War epic too. It's you versus the Russians.
Welcome to the moon, Commander. I'm gonna
Look at
walk you
this.
through combat training. The General wants all NSDF command posts prepared to defend themselves. The future of our country depends on our success here in space.
You have,
Welcome to the moon, Commander. The
you have
General wants
pretty
all
much
NSDF
FPS
command posts
controls.
prepared to defend our success here in space.
And then you get into a
Your
tank.
experimental scout tank.
Like, I thought this game was so freaking cool for the time, and it gets worse. You're gonna see.
Use your jump thrusters to cross the ledges.
So you're jumping in a tank too. I think they made a newer version of this game even. Oh, here we go.
Present your enemy. Target.
Woo.
Also. Good work, Commander. But it's
So-
really vulnerable when moving.
This game is also an RTS. This game is running really well, by the way. But there's not much that's really going on. But see, not only are you your own unit, but you can command other units. You can get a team of guys to follow you around and do stuff.
We'll introduce you to factories. Factories reprocess a material we call biometal scrap into new vehicles.
Not
weapons,
only do you
and
command other
supplies.
units, but you can
We
build
found scrap
bases
fields
too,
around the
like
moon
in Command and
that prototype
Conquer.
meteor ship. Engineering has
It's a
created
3D
scavengers, which are big,
first-person
mobile
shooter
factories that gather
RTS.
scrap.
It was a bit
Recycle
daunting at
each
time
unit
because there's a lot you had to
base.
manage from a
Active
first-person perspective, and you had to run
Content
around a lot.
recycle.
And you can actually leave your tank and jump into other tanks. You could commandeer enemy tanks. And now,
Deploying. Now
we
have the
make it
recycler
build.
a scavenger. Point your smart reticle at the geyser and notice that the diamond on the ground changes to a white line at the geyser.
and I'm remembering how
The
this game
recycler
works, so I'm way
deploys
ahead
the
of the,
power source.
uh-oh,
Press the-
there's a
the
red
recycler
bob.
build a skip. They don't have any weapons.
There's a Russian ship.
I'm gonna send a drone to attack. Good shooting, Commander. That enemy is scrap.
Man, this game's so cool. I want to play it again.
To select
There
the
you
first
go.
camp.
Another dude and another space
Building
tank.
complete.
Off Fed Scout 1, follow me. Off Fed Scout 2, follow me.
Standing by. Whoa, follow the leader.
Oh, I saw a red blip. Huh. Shouldn't there be more instructions? Oh yeah, you gotta go look at the
Notice
nav
spy
beacon.
camera in the top right.
Alt, go to nav.
Yes, sir.
Good work. Use your scout to destroy the next drone. Good job, Commander. Now head back to the base.
And that's that. I could show you the actual game, but it would be long-winded. On that note, there is one last little Easter egg that I found that I'm gonna try to get going for you here, and then that's about it. No, it's not in there. Look at all the partitions. C, D, E. Removables F is the SciQuest drive. Removable disk G is the PD drive. We're going into here and into games and into here and into here. For some old school Tomb Raider 2. And holy crap, that loaded fast. And the most dangerous things in the game are these mice, if I can remember how to shoot at them. Unlimited pistol ammo. There's a guy who's gonna come for me right there. This is a game of memory because you wouldn't have seen that guy before it was too late. Oh wait, there's more mice. Which button jumps again? Alt. Gotta do one of these. And there's a second one. Don't you troll me, bud. Oh, he doesn't come out until I get up there, does he? So I gotta put my guns away and then... No, not that button. Okay, that button. Then this button. These controls aren't quite as terrible as Resident Evil. I think I'm actually kind of getting used to them here. Oh, side jump. Okay. Tomb Raider 1 didn't have her ponytail. That was an advance in technology when they could get the tech to render her ponytail. Oh wait, there's a guy up there, I forgot. Turn around and... Can you imagine that? You're an archaeologist and you're just going around and capping everyone. You see the guy up there, right? Yep. That's the most health I've made this far. And these guys is hard to perceive. Oh, no, you still get slashed. Oh, yeah, I don't know how to... There's a way to... Oh, let's not do that right by the blades. How do I... Oh, yeah, okay, okay. So you can maybe... No, oh. My health's almost gone now. Wrong button. I see. Can I make it there? Oh, these guys stopped slashing. Why did these... Oh, they turned back on after us time. That was handy to know. Ugh. Now, where is that door that opened? Better get my guns out. There's probably more heavies out here. Now, this was part of the fun of this game. Bit of a maze game. Bit of a trying to figure out where everything is game. It wasn't all action. Some of it was a case of exploring. It's up on the second floor? Well, how in the heck do I even get up to the second floor, bud? Oh, I think it's something like you... And brah. Wait. Okay, it's an acrobatic trick. All right, up. Jump again. And grab. Oh, no. Up, up. Jump and go. And a lot of repeating the same. Yeah. How about... Oh, there we go. I got it. Up. Oh. Oh, yeah. She can push huge stone blocks. I bet she lifts. Gotta jump across or something, or... Oh. Okay, well, you get the gist of it. Old school Tomb Raider 2. Now you gotta start all over again. Well, that's the enthusiast gaming rig that I had in 96, 97, 98, somewhere around there. It tied me over for a while until I got my first Athlon 500. Oh. Okay. Yeah.